It's 6 o'clock. Actually, it's 6:01. We have everybody here, so we have a forum. So the first thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes from February 13th.
Second.
Judy seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make sure you're speaking up so the microphone catches you.
Aye.
I will speak up. Public comment items not on the agenda. Okay. We will move on to the items for discussion. So we'll start with the T hanger lease language.
Well, just to bring everybody up to speed, the last few months, the airport commission has been talking about updating lease language to try to encourage. Maybe some non-active flyers to maybe make some different decisions. Or get some lease turnover, or get some hangar turnover for our waiting list. We've taken the comments, what little comments I received and put them in the lease. We sent the lease out to the current hangar tenants, both via postal mail and email. And if anybody wants to talk about the leases, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I really don't have anything more.
So as a member of the public, okay, I'm making comments that have been commented to me, so they're not actually my comments, but they're people in the public. So there are some general thoughts about, I think people are having, since I guess the lease has been opened up to looking at. There's a question about specific airplanes and specific hangars. I understand that to be that because we have, a hangar tenant has to name the airport in their insurance policy, then that is my understanding is why we would have to know a specific airplane in a specific hangar. That way the insurance is satisfied.
Yes.
But then it was brought up that people put different airplanes in their hangars all the time, which I said, I only got one airplane, so
Yes,
I'll let other people.
I have been lax in getting new insurance certificates for temporary replacements.
Yeah,
But that is one thing we can be better at in terms of paperwork follow-up. If somebody puts something different in the hangar, then it's
Yeah.
a certificate.
there was. So I have 12 of these, so I'm just paraphrasing so it goes pretty quick. There's another one about maintenance downtime, about planes not being used. And I forget it. I was meaning to look through everything, but. Did we say there was a time frame?
We did not put a time. frame
Yeah,
on
so
it.
then last points. The people who leave their hangar, I think we had kind of talked for like. Snowbirds or people who borrow airplanes, I think we had already discussed that part, and that was not a problem. So
There is a time frame if you sell,
if you sell,
like it's
okay.
the aircraft is 90 days.
I don't think that was a problem. General questions about how things would get enforced. And that is also a sentiment that I hold me, Ryan. Is how we would enforce some of the things about if people don't. Or aren't abiding with some of this, like how are we gonna? The teeth, I guess.
Gonna be NERC based. Somebody's gonna have to.
Yeah,
for the most part.
yeah. Well, I guess
Like
then-
we do,
I
so
guess-
we'll do annual inspections, like we do the fire inspection every year. We'll
Yeah.
go through and as part of that, we check off what airplanes in there, what it looks like, that kind of stuff. That's when I do.
Yeah,
That side of things. So if the airplane's changed and we don't have record of it, or if it looks like it hasn't moved, if it's got flat tires, things like that. I will
Yeah.
look at those.
and home builds.
But otherwise, yes, this is predominantly gonna be something that if we have an issue, this gives us the ability to deal with it versus trying to go find them.
I guess if we do find out there's an issue. We'll go there, find out the hanger. Or is it an eviction? I guess is it an eviction process with the hangar, or we just be like, well, you didn't follow the rules and the leases?
I think, my understanding is, and this might be a Jennifer question, we would probably have to go through the eviction process.
Sorry.
Which I would bring into the airport commission to authorize that.
And I think we try to informally
Yeah,
resolve it
yeah.
initially, maybe draw someone's attention to the fact that they're in violation.
Yeah.
But I think, right, that we would have a lease, so we would be able to evict.
Okay.
And then, I think that you could make the decision that maybe it wouldn't be somebody you'd lease to in the future if they weren't complying with the lease.
I thought, because there was something, for home builds. Can't remember the exact language and I can't find it in my,
It's section 3, which are.
Talks about the fee.
that's about.
There's an additional electrical fee they should be paying. We haven't really charged that.
Yeah, but it's so, we don't have, or prohibit. We do not prohibit using it. I guess, is a home built considered a flyable airplane?
We had with the electrical line, we had a definite, basically when it gets a airworthiness certificate is when that charge is supposed to go away.
And I guess but I guess if we're talking about airplanes with flat tires. That wouldn't qualify. I think that's what this person was intending or talking about potentially was what.
Are you saying there's not?
Is
really
there
a
an
distinction
ability-
between an unflyable aircraft
And a home build?
that has a type certificate? and
Yeah.
A home built that's not complete yet?
Yeah. Cause they don't have an airworthiness certificate.
Yeah,
They can also sit for 25 years.
never finished building.
Yeah, so I don't know.
We put,
Do we have any time constraints on how quickly they have to build it?
I don't think we put anything there for time constraints on building airplanes, but we did put in there some language for active progress or.
Oh, that's
Or
right.
just
Yeah, the
progress.
active progress. Yeah, yeah.
um,
I think that. From an individual Ronnie's perspective, that sounds okay.
I don't see that in, where it says home built.
Yeah, it's not in the home built
It's not,
fee,
yeah.
it's,
It's in, so if you look at 5, use of the hangar space in part A.
Yeah.
The hangar space shall be used primarily to house operational aircraft or aircraft under active construction or repair. So that the active would also go with repair. I think we talked about trying to put in an actual, or maybe just Mike and I had this discussion and we just really had no idea.
Yeah.
What time frame.
It's hard. I mean, Ankeny does something like a year, but even then, it's the same, like somebody has to tell on somebody. Unless they come over and do like the yearly, the fire inspections and stuff, but even then, I know of one time where they tried to do it, try to kick somebody out. Or kick them out of the hangar for not making action progress, and Ankeny does something like that, but I don't know. It was. annoying, but It's hard. It's gonna be things too much early. There's one other thing that I was gonna mention, I was gonna call it fine. I don't think that's it, cause I can't figure out what else I was gonna bring out from this.
Those are all good questions. And I think. As a commission. We should reassure people who express concern that we're not getting state. Unreasonable happening.
Yeah, I guess that's,
But by the same token, there's a lot of people waiting for hay.
yeah.
And
How long is the wait? 46.
Yeah.
How many papers?
People, are those people who actually have aircraft?
there are a mix of people that have aircraft, there are a mix of speculators, home builders that are assuming a time frame of when they think they're gonna need a hangar. And there are probably several people on here that have moved on to other locations because they were looking for hangars in relation to work at the university or other opportunities in the area that either no longer exist or they found some other else to be in. They haven't come up on my list and we haven't updated that.
But to your point, I agree, we're not trying to kick anybody out, we're just trying to make good on our mission, which is to increase use of the airport. If somebody has a plane in a hangar that's not reliable, isn't prepared, they're not using the airport and somebody else can do it, so.
And I can tell you the last entry that did get a hangar that was on my waiting list waited 2 years for a hangar. So that's, that's it, yeah.
Is there any discussion on leasing long-term ground or like somebody wanted to build their own hangar?
Yep, we have ground space. We extended some taxi lane on the south side that. If people were interested in building hangars, I'm happy to talk with them.
Yeah, so that is a possibility.
And we've entertained it in the past.
Yeah, we've had a couple of hangars that have been built privately. We've got the one at the end of K over here that houses a glider and a light sport. That's an individual that built the hangar for those 2 airplanes. We built the box hangars, but that was part of just capacity. Jet Air's built a couple of buildings on their own.
You know, I've been out here, I've had my hangar for quite a while, probably 20 plus years. And when I wanted one originally, they had the United hangar. And shoehorn stuff in there, you know, BK Jones had a hell of a setup there. But, you know, the other thing was I don't know how the ambulance thing works into this. I don't know how that might be one area that, you could open that up for a home build area. I don't know what the situation is with the ambulance service.
So the ambulance on the field partners with Jet Air to do, they provide some of the ground transportation for their air med flights, and they also do just general, it's not just with Jet Air, but general transport from the airport to hospitals and other transports. So right now they're actively participating in the air medical flights that occur out here.
Do they need to be physically here on the field? I don't know what they're paying for rent or anything like that.
Well, that's a question.
You know, you can probably get 10 home builders in that place, maybe more than that. There's something.
Yeah,
Roxton,
we don't do it for home builders, we have several that like do our bigger space, kind of like that, and these other hangars that we built. I'm trying to think through how many I've got right now that are in Cirrus's and 182s and stuff like that, but I commonly have about 3 people that are on the wait list. I do month to month, that, soon as something's available, in fact, as soon as something's available, I typically kick them out and tell them to go take it. That they're, if they're on the list, if there's an extra list.
The group has wanted to build hangars for a long time, but the trouble is the construction costs mean we'd have to rent them for far more than we're charging right now. Just didn't see a way to do it, but we'll see. We're talking
some people who can afford these airplanes can afford to build a hangar.
exactly, or they can afford to pay $100 for a more luxury hangar. And I think that's on the discussion tonight. Tonight for discussion.
There questions or concerns about the lease language as it's written?
I think we should adapt this language. We need a resolution.
This was just a motion.
Well, I move that we adapt this lease language.
Well, this was a debate. I thought meeting were barred from.
He,
voting on
he can,
this.
he can.
He can make a motion?
He can make a motion, he
You just can't vote.
Do they need to abstain?
No, they should, yeah, you should abstain.
Yes.
But they can,
They can make, oh,
they can move to pass it, but they can't vote.
No, I don't think so, because you're sort of saying you're in support.
I,
of
I'll
passing.
move my motion.
Okay, I move that we approve the hanger. I'll second.
all in favor,
Aye.
Abstain.
staying.
Three, oh.
Okay. Well,
All right. Next item is airport construction projects, FAA grant projects.
Just starting from, not really a whole lot of news on the 1230 project. We're waiting for the manufacturer to get the temporary wheels in and installed. Well sent to us so that the contractor can install them. So that's kind of where that is. We're dealing with the FAA's chaos for flight checks and everything else is what it is, but everything's still out there. Not a lot of movement's been made in the last month. Solar power project. Array's complete, punch list is complete. We do have a recommendation letter from our consultant CMT to accept the project. I am happy to report over the last month, the last billing cycle with Mid-Am, our solar array that's powering building D has generated more power than they used. So we have like a $4 credit now.
That's way better than big negative.
But it is dramatically helping with the bills. The runway light bill went from about $500 to about $150. So yeah, it's certainly helped.
And in the summer, I imagine, will generate my power.
Yeah, and knowing that especially if building D holds out, like if we're producing a surplus from March to, I mean, October-ish. It's gonna be, and we're not that far away from the runway lights either.
No,
They're pretty close to.
yeah, we'll have short days, cloudy days.
Yep.
At my house, you know, I only pay electricity in November, December, and January. Other than that, and I get surplus that builds up during the summer, which
Yep.
gets, as the days get shorter in fall, take care of it.
Which is really helpful, operational budget.
Okay.
I move we consider resolution, accepting the work for the airside ground mount solar array.
Second.
All right, roll call. Warren. Aye. Judy.
Aye.
Electra.
Aye.
Brian. Chris, aye.
All right, Iowa DOT projects, we will talk about our possible hangar build here. So over the course of the last week, I've sent the commission members the email about Marion and started scrambling to figure out how to build a hangar. Because if they do end up closing down, I want to be able to capture some of that activity in the aircraft storage. Also had conversations with the Iowa DOT, with the FAA about our funding sources that we have. So what I am going to propose is we start planning for the construction of a 10-unit T hangar. My goal, my hope, and Adam can come up and help me with pricing, but my hope is to build something that's roughly 45 foot wide as far as doors go, 1,500 square feet. Something that is a little bit nicer in terms of amenities, so we'll include or either include heating or the capability for the hangar to be heating because the utility is going to be right there. And part of that is because the rent we're going to need to charge is roughly about $350 a month to be able to afford if we need a loan at this venture. Right now, what we're projecting, and I handed out a spreadsheet earlier along with some pictures. Adam's got us about $1.7 million for the building costs, and we've got a little bit extra we need to sort out for construction management and engineering and design. But in terms of funding available, we have the remainder of our bipartisan infrastructure law money, which is roughly $600,000. And then we have the 2 state grant programs that we can tap into, and we would apply for, this May, which could get us up to roughly $700,000 of additional grant funds. We would split out a couple of things for, the programs, the AIP program, the airport improvement program, which would pay for the paving, taxi lane extension. And then the vertical infrastructure program, which is dependent on state funding for, the program. That has a current cap of $300,000 for new construction, so. Love to get more, but unfortunately, that one does have a hard cap on it. The other options we have, which, if push came to shove and we needed to use it, we do have AIP money that we built up. There is some strings with that. If we do want to use AIP money, we would essentially be saying our airside needs are met for the next 3 years, and the FAA gives us no more money for airport projects for a while.
To be clear, because Mike and I talked about this yesterday, to be clear, that doesn't mean that we don't keep building up our entitlements year by year. It just means that we can't spend it. So we still get our allowance, it just goes to our bank. And we, our FAA. Now, Mike and I talked about this, and I'm going to voice it. I think that should be our last resort if we can, because we'd be pushing down the road pavement maintenance. Our runways are in really good shape, and I would hate for us to have a really bad winter on year 2, and then that's, you're not coming back. So I think we should seriously consider the ramification, do something like that.
And then the last pot of money I have pre-cleared with the city, roughly a $500,000 loan. If we needed to get into that, then at least we have that pot of money that's there. My goal, outside of getting the building done, my secondary goal is to do this without debt, so that we are realizing the revenue right away that's coming off of these centers. So yeah, that's
Obviously, if we need to pavement for that.
yeah. The nice thing is we've paved half of the area essentially. That's the area that we started paving 2 years ago now, last year. Yeah, timelines. So we have a good chunk of paving down, which is going to save us a lot of money. The other thing that this does is it starts that extension on the east side, which ultimately I'm trying to maneuver to be a secondary access into the area. Right now, the only access is the taxi lane that's out here. And at some point in time, we're gonna need to take that down and rebuild it. And yeah, it helps us get a little bit closer to some type of other pavement that we can send aircraft down. And it's wide pavement, so anything that might be in the deep hangars in terms of the business jets that come in have an access point. Like we're not also cutting off access to Matt's big storage hangars. So that's generally the concept. FAA is on board in terms of using the bill money. They're even on board with the AIP, given the qualifications of it. So that was something I was happy to hear about. The state's on board with hangars. I mean, that's one of their big goals, is to try to get hangar capacity across the state built up. They're just restricted by the amount of money we have. It's not a large pot of money for the GAVI program. General aviation, it's $1 million a year. So I figure 100 airports across the state fighting for $1 million. It doesn't go very far. With that, the goal was in the impetus, or the triggering event for this was really Marion kind of doing their things and announcing they were planning on closing the runway up there. Even if that doesn't happen, there's still an off chance that they work something out up there to keep the airport open. Given the size of our waiting list, the wait times on our waiting list, I still think we have a market that makes sense to do this.
If we can accommodate 10 airplanes, we have a waiting list of 40 people, I think pretty good.
Yeah.
You fill it right away.
And if we get to that point, we'll start pre-marketing this thing too, and pre-leasing.
Now, as a reminder, we were originally just leaving our bill money for phase 2 of the solar, so if we do this, we're basically shelving that. If not, we have. But that's covering jet air and air. And
No, just the university.
just university, okay. Okay,
Oh, yeah, maybe they want to.
but I think this solves it more immediately, because we've been trying to solve it for a long
Oh,
time.
it's very important.
Make a lot of new friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can have a grand opening barbecue.
Well, the current plan would be to apply for the state grant program, both the building and the AIP program for the paving. Adam and I need to kind of sit down and Adam's got a good detail of costs right now. We probably need to sit down and figure out areas we might be able to shave costs or trim some stuff back if needed, and how we shape that bid, just to cover any possible contingencies or overages, since we're kind of towing the line on a lot of pots of money here. Timing wise, that would be the state application coming in April, or not, May. And then we wouldn't know if we got those until June-ish, when they announced the draft program that they send to the Transportation Commission. Our bill money, we have half of it now, so we have about $300,000 right now. The other half of that doesn't come available until they do the October announcements, based on the formula for how it gets divided amongst the airports in the country. So what we'd be looking at time-wise, we kind of do this background information, apply for the state grants, plan on bidding this fall, winter, with construction being next spring and wrapping up hopefully by midsummer, late summer.
Sounds good.
And then, Chris had told me that also, I think the intention might be to offer the new hangar space at higher rate to the existing hangar. And
So, yeah, we've got a couple of different avenues to go. We do have people that have been on the airport that are looking for different hangar space for various reasons, either bigger size, like people on the north that are looking for the south, people on the south that are looking for corners with more space,
people who want to heat it home.
people that want heated hangars. So we can kind of structure how we pre-lease and market this thing, outside of the typical first come, first serve waiting list process. And I think given the price points, that's gonna dictate some of it too. We're looking at $350 where our entry level T hangars are 180, and even on the south side, they're 220 to 275. So we're kind of 50% above our current market rate for T hangars now. And that's part of why we're trying to increase the amenities on the initial construction so that we can justify the 350 mark.
My voice, my opinion, when Mike told me about this yesterday was that, I'd like to push for the hangars to be heated, rather than just plumbing it for someone to buy a heater, because one, we'd be buying 10 of them, so in theory, that should bring the cost down a little bit. But two, I think that more solidly justifies that.
Yeah, and I think people would be willing to pay 1.2 million for a single engine Spirit.
Yes.
Probably be just fine with paying 400 a month for a heated hangar. Honestly, I mean, it's a drop in the bucket for people.
Yeah.
People like that.
People like
I wasn't gonna say anything.
That sounds like that's reasonable, you've got it all planned out, what do we need to do now?
Bless the concept and say go forth.
Go for it.
God bless it.
Yes, keep it ready.
I'm really excited about this.
I am too. I actually, yeah, I've been, I don't think I've been this excited in a while for a project. No, we'll go forward. Adam and I will talk and put better pricing together. We'll prepare the grants for the state, grant application for the state. And if there's, if we come across anything that, especially within the next month and a half, where we can switch grant applications. The other thing this is doing is, we're taking our grant application opportunity that we might be using for terminal remodel or modernization or those kind of projects and delaying that as well. So it's, yeah, unfortunately, we just don't have the money to do everything, so it's a matter of this becomes a priority. And if we find something in the next month and a half or so that makes us believe we can't actually pull this off, then we'll come back and do an update.
It's certainly more than this.
But yeah.
Grass landing?
Grass landing ops, this one's just kind of giving everybody an update on what the plan is for the grass landing ops. I threw a couple of pictures in the airport in the packet. A reminder, we did get permission from flight standards that we could allow adjacent landing to the runway. Matt and I talked about how to mark those areas, and Matt had a nice example of some markings on his farm that used they used rock, right?
Yeah, we use
Yeah.
white gravel and trenches, basically.
So I think that's generally the plan. I've got some areas marked off. We just need to get cost estimates to get that taken care of. If we have people that want to volunteer to dig an L into the ground, I mean, we can do that too.
Caveat, we're still, but as long as we do it same, if we wait till August, that would.
No, we want to get this thing done and open and open for the summer, so. That is that. So any other questions on the landing ops? That's the plan forward.
Couldn't figure out much about rolling it. Had somebody ask me if we even need to roll it. I think we do, but I don't know.
I think we want to roll it. I mean, it's still pretty flat out there, but we want to roll it. We want to walk it to make sure we're not catching any gopher holes or something silly that could be prevented.
So how often would you have to roll it?
I know some people that do it once a year, but then some people don't do it at all. And you can tell, but I don't know what the
So
minimum.
it's not like once a month to make sure there's no gopher hole?
No,
Oh,
Cause you gotta, the ground has to be fairly soft,
Yeah.
so by the time the
Okay.
ground dries up, you're not,
no,
you won't have any difference.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
It's gotta be just right. You don't want your tractor tires. You
Yeah.
roll work.
Just soft.
soft enough for the roller to compact, but not soft enough for the tires to eat it up. Airport terminal building modernization and replacement, we had, yeah, we're kind of on a holding pattern, but we did have Chris, Electra, and Adam and I had a couple of conversations about, before the hangar development stuff came up, about moving forward with that. I think in general, and again, the history of how this all started with the airport terminal program and the infrastructure law. We did some good things. We have the space needs study, but now that we're not going after that program, we have the opportunity to kind of step back and re-examine if there is something we can do with the existing building that might get us 10, 20 years down the road, and then do some type of private capital campaign or some other mechanism to fund a newer building. I think that's generally the concepts that we wanted to bring to the airport commission tonight is not necessarily killing the project, but just backing up a couple of steps and taking a look again at that being able to add on to this building, add some space to satisfy those space need issues. And, you know, update whatever we can in here. And then go through the funding programs and some of the things that Adam and the McClure group talked about as part of their presentation, and see what we can do to fund some of that stuff. Anything else you want to throw in there?
No, I mean, I think to add to that a little bit, yeah, we had a great kind of initial meeting and might as well just come up here and get on the turnaround warm.
Yeah, I'm getting too old for this.
Need swivel chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a great conversation about what had been done and the value of the space needs study and, you know, how do we take what was developed and learned in that and go further, go deeper. We think there needs to be additional effort and time put into evaluating the alternatives. Primarily looking at renovating the space, rehabilitating the space, and looking more at rehabilitating the space and an addition to this building. Also looking at it from the alternative of what does that longer vision look like? You know, how can we add an addition to the space that doesn't prevent something else from happening in the future? To provide that ultimate vision that the commission has outlined. So we think that there's a number of pros and cons around those alternatives. We think there's variances in how we fund those alternatives, and we need to better understand those at a deeper level. So that's, you know, the conversation tonight is, you know, we'd like to map out a little bit of what that scope looks like for the next phase of this project and how we continue along, keep moving it forward. So what we would be recommending would be what I'm going to call an alternatives analysis, but a deeper dive at the alternatives analysis, and then a feasibility study that looks at those alternatives and how we would potentially fund those alternatives. So from there, it's open for questions and discussion.
Sounds like we gotta solve the hangar thing first, and then keep those thoughts in mind, huh?
I think it's just, you know. Adam and his team they came in with a number of new ideas around how we could fund a replacement or renovation of the space. Like, I don't think it ever occurred to us, or we knew that we had like this, what is it, SHPO funds, effectively. Yeah, historic preservation funds that were available to us if we renovated the space. And if we're on the hook for, you know, bringing a $7 or $8 million building, that's a lot harder. I think we were also trying to chase the ATP funds. And we were trying to take advantage of them, but, you know, reality was, none of us really knew that what we were asking for. So, at least within the purview of what the FAA is bringing. So, it's just an opportunity to step back and we can look at the options and make a more informed decision. A little bit.
Okay.
We're not saying no, and I think we're all on board with the fact that we need to do something because everyone's cranked. But,
And things are falling apart.
well, there's that, yeah.
That's what we're using.
We'll put a scope and a fee estimate together, at least to have a discussion and, you know, try to work towards budgeting that, or, you know, finding a funding source to execute that, so we can keep it moving forward.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thoughtfulness on that.
Absolutely.
Airport operation.
Just for operation, budget budget is the budget. We did take a little bit of a hit over the last month. We had a couple of hangar doors that kind of went upside down on this, couple of hangar cables snapped, and one of them happened to get stuck open in one of our deep freezes, so we had some water pipe freezing issues. I think at the end of the day, we'll be okay. We tend to plan for some of that kind of stuff to happen. But it doesn't help the overall budget when stuff like that does happen. And fortunately, just hangers and cables. We have too many doors that it just happens naturally. Management, hangar ground lease. So over the last, I don't know, month, I have been negotiating this ground lease with the help of Jennifer and Matt and with the conglomerate known as Hangar 319er. A couple of the individual members do have planes already here. They have a couple of Cirrus aircraft here. They want to build a hangar building with the thoughts of expanding their aircraft fleet. There are a number of folks involved in that setup. And that's kind of where it's at. The hangar itself, the lease itself is a 50-year lease, 35 cents a square foot per year. They are planning on applying for a commercial business agreement because they want to do, within their conglomerate, at least at this point, they want to be able to do flight instruction and some minor charter type services, aircraft rental, because they all own different parts of airplanes that they may be trading off on. Certainly okay with everything they propose, and if they do want to do a formal business, they certainly could. But the intent right now is to just kind of fulfill their internal needs.
My
We
question,
get, or sorry, go ahead.
my question is, does this make them another like our FBO?
Not truly, because they're not at this point in time, they're not intending to offer services to the general. Like if you call the airport looking for a charter company, we would still give you the Jet Air.
But it doesn't prevent them from doing it.
It doesn't prevent them from doing it.
We could have two competing things.
They would,
going on.
well, they would still have to comply with the minimum standards, so they would still have to meet the same standards that Jet Air's meeting, but if they wanted to, yeah, potentially, they could.
I forget, do you know what the minimum standards are for, like, cause I know like as a independent flight instructor, even I have issues if I go to like Cedar Rapids and start trying to instruct out there, and I forget what it actually was. There's some, but I don't remember now, but.
So for us, it depends on what you're offering,
Yeah.
on what the standards are for like flight instruction. You're required to have 2 aircraft. One of them needs to be IFR rated. Classroom space, you know, the necessary classroom space and office space to support that infrastructure.
Well, like we have.
Yeah. We do have a office.
So if they build this new one, would you move there to be doing your flight stuff out of it, because they might have better place for you to be working out of?
No.
Okay, I'm just wondering. From what I was reading, it's.
I'll be in the nursing home by then.
So what drives it to the 50-year? Cause I thought the standard is 30 years, or like,
Negotiations
Okay.
and the ability to get a hangar built. Sure, I mean, it's kind of, I do look at like the general investment of what they're putting into the ground and,
yeah,
That would eventually become airport practice in 50 years.
yeah.
I guess, cause what I'm thinking is that me, when I build a hangar, I get a 30-year lease. The percentage of how much money I would spend to build that hangar, is it the percentage the same, the effort the same for a large group building a large hangar, I guess? I mean, I don't, that's,
Those are one of the negotiables.
yeah, no, I get that. I think that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
negotiate as a commission member, is like what drives it? And then also, so they don't pay rent for 10 years because they'll do improvements. And I guess, do we know like what amount of money those improvements would take versus how much rent we would, I mean, the ground lease rent is not that much at all, so I would imagine it wouldn't take much to overcome.
We're talking. This picture really shows.
I mean, yeah, the stuff that's
Yeah.
shown there looks very expensive, but I'm just trying to,
Yeah, they're
before we go and like sign on the 50-year thing, I'd like to understand like what, cause
no, the fence and
Shoot
the,
around.
yeah, the fence and gate and the concrete that they're gonna put down is probably. I don't have hard and fast numbers, but I would easily say it's at least 75 grand.
and so the new gate. Is that to enter where the guard is, or where would the
So-
or is that just a future gate that would maybe at some point have a driveway to it?
Nope, it'll be built with the building. So what happens is the gate that's kind of right here that separates
Yeah,
our line, we're actually gonna bring it down here and put it here.
okay,
And then it'll be upgraded to a collated electronic gate.
yeah. Right now, it's just a law.
Yeah.
Can you show where you go?
So the current gate
there.
is, no, it's over here.
Oh, that is, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so there's rolling gate right here.
Yep.
We're gonna move it down to this end of the,
Oh,
and then they do fencing. They're also responsible for the relocation of the utilities that they're gonna build over, which is, by itself about 20 grand. Well, I don't wanna say that, probably about 15 at least, but it's gonna be expensive. Minnehaha hasn't given us the price for the other half of it, they've only given us price for one of the two
And
utilities.
so we call out a base rent already in 2035. How does that compare to our rent right now for ground lease?
That's 10 cents a square foot higher.
What's the last time we did a CPI adjustment to one of these leases? How much was it?
The last, well, the ground lease we did with the guard, well, the guard was different, cause that's, the last.
I guess was
hangar-
it 10
The last,
cents or was
the
it-
last hangar build we did, the last hangar building contract we did was 25 cents a square foot.
Or
And this
that
is
was like 10 years ago?
This is 35, and that was about 10 years ago.
that's 40%.
But it was on a measly 30-year lease. Those guys got. that.
Yeah. Somebody should talk to me, dude.
Should have hit us when we were more desperate for space.
I'm not here though.
Is any of this hangar gonna be available for public use? I mean, like,
No, this is a private hangar.
so how does it really benefit the airport? I mean, I guess if we get a.
Space in 50 years.
We get a
Space,
building-
more airplanes here, more fuel sales. Active flyers.
Space. Oh, I suppose the
Space
space
is
means
hell.
that they'll move some planes out of current hangars and put them in there.
Yeah, the hangars that they currently have are, the airplanes they currently have are in our group space now with
Right.
Jet Air.
Okay.
And so when those move out, we'll have more room to take on, people who are on the hangar waiting list or own business stuff.
So it is an advantage for a lot of it then.
Oh, yeah. Anytime we can get, I mean, with few exceptions, anytime we can get more hangar space, we're gonna benefit because a lot of our budget is. Well, we have the hangar rentals, but also the fuel.
Okay.
Fuel budgets.
And then if you don't build the remaining of the solar project, so that area would not be,
That doesn't impact the solar project.
Solar is
no, I
up there.
understand, but you said the OPL would be kind of the only one that would benefit with the remaining that we might not do.
So, yeah, the second phase of the solar power, what we were targeting was the research lab and Jet Air's maintenance shop, because those are the last two buildings that are more or less actively have people at them, 7 days a week.
Okay, so we were not even trying to cover the existing hangars that were there on that area.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is just. Well, or I guess my point that I'm interested in is whether or not. Or yeah, the 50-year lease and then kick in or assigning a rent now for a time. 10 years. from now. I wonder about, that's what I just wondered.
Well, assigning the rent now, it kind of gives that discount of
Yeah,
what we would probably normally pay out for our landlord ownership type stuff.
mhm,
So that it helps that process. The 50-year is purely a return on investment type issue.
sure.
I mean, we started the same ground lease we give to everybody else with 30 years on it.
Yeah,
The big thing is to, when I built mine in 2017 was a similar size, so it was a $750,000 endeavor, a little less, and this is it is probably $1 million plus, and we had a few, like in terms of their contributions, I'm not with them, but like the airport, when we did ours, paid for 50% of the ramp space that we added. In this case, they're paying for 100% of it, so it's like some of that stuff that by virtue of not wanting to wait for state funding, they're paying for it themselves, which is good, at the same time,
yeah.
that's why they're asking, is my guess.
It is a pretty big ranch that y'all built, right, though?
Ours was a lot bigger.
Yeah.
That was one of my bigger concerns with this was that you typically try to get as much pavement in front as you
Yeah.
put in, but.
Yeah.
and, you know. At the same time with the guard, and being able to do, I mean, I think they would go back if they didn't have conflicts.
Yeah, I guess, cause right now, I mean, there's often times where airplanes are kind of stayed out in front of that hangar, so it is curious, especially if they do go forward and try to offer flight training and stuff, or there's one. I mean, I think it goes back to Mike's point about there only being one taxiway for that whole entire area, which is problematic in general, but then if we put another hangar there that might be doing commercial stuff, then what kind of problems do we create, which is not a problem that people want to know the hangar can answer, but I guess, yeah, I don't know, I'm sort of interested to think about it a little bit more and just wonder, but, I mean, I think it's good for people to build hangars, but I just.
Well, and again, tonight's just setting the public.
Yeah,
hearing,
yeah,
they're Not
yeah.
approving the ground.
No,
rules.
I know, but the public, after the public hearing once the public hearing's finished, we'll vote, right? So I think that's why I want to bring up things now, so
Sure.
that way, in a month from now, when we do have a public hearing, at least it's not Ryan going like, oh, what about this? And then we got about 5 minutes to think about it and then vote on it. So, because I think it is a big,
It is a
big
commitment.
development.
It is a
The
commitment.
taxi is a problem now.
It's not a
I mean,
problem now.
potentially, could be if we add more hangars anywhere, potentially, right? Then is it something long-term we should be looking at another taxi lane?
I think that's what Mike
We
was
are.
mentioning, yeah.
Okay,
It's in the
so
plans,
already
but
in
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So we're already looking at it, so then it shouldn't affect us that much.
Timing is the
timing
big
is
issue,
it,
yeah.
So I do agree with Ryan. I mean, if there is a consensus among the commission that you're not in agreement with the term. I mean, not that you couldn't bring it up later, but that'll delay the process. But we would want, you know, if we know that there's consensus about a term that maybe the commission's not in agreement with, we want to take that back. So that we can let them know. Of course, that will delay the process too, but we just delay it even more if it comes up at the meeting next month.
And I don't know if anybody else has problems, or I guess, I don't even have a problem, I mean, I'm just
I know, if I personally
wonder.
were building a hangar. I would go for the longest lease I possibly could.
Oh, yeah, I agree, I
So
think
I could, you know,
Ryan, hangar builder Ryan, yeah, 50-year lease sounds great, I think airport commission member Ryan, 50-year lease is where I go, well. What are we doing? Like, what are we
Yeah.
giving up in that amount of time? And I guess that's what I'm wondering, but yeah, as Ryan with his own bank account, I want 100 years. So,
and I haven't read this agreement super carefully, but is there a clause in it that they agree to maintain the building? Because 50 years from now, if we have a falling down piece of junk that we have to tear down, that would be a liability rather than.
And there's a provision that at that point, the commission, there is a requirement to maintain it, but at the time that it becomes the airport's property, the airport can also tell them they want it returned, the land returned in the condition it was when they leased it. So if the building was
Okay.
not worth anything at that point,
They would be responsible for destroying it.
correct?
Turning it over.
Now, I think, you know, by agreeing to 50 years, if you have somebody else come, you maybe set a new precedent. I mean,
I think like I wouldn't build a hangar now, if the airport granted at 50 years, I mean, that's what I would think, is like you now have how many hangars built with 30-year leases? You do one for 50, I guess the flip side of that is nobody else is called in to ask about building a hangar, so maybe these are the only folks.
Well, they have called in to ask, but they haven't done it because of that, because of the expense in the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, I don't know, I think I like the idea, and I think it's good to have more hangars, I just am wondering, so I don't know if anybody else shares my wondering.
I do,
Or not.
yeah, so I was letting.
Pontificate.
Yes. Sure. You're full of great words today. With your surplus of ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did wonder how we got from 30 to 50, and I was wondering if you could share, like. Did they come to us with 50, or did we sent them 30 and they said, no, 50 is what we can do, or
We sent them 30 with the original lease and they came back with 50.
if we come back with 40, what do you think? Cause I get that the economics built, like, it is an expensive building to build today, I get that, and the economics of it, we can't get out of, I get that. But it seems weird to me that, you know, we went from 30 and we're now jumping almost 50% increase in lease.
Well, and I think Matt and you and I have had these conversations on trying to build a hangar for a number of times over the last couple of years and. Like, I've even offered like, okay, 30 is not enough, give me the number, like, what is it?
Yeah,
And
and industry wide, that's the thing is, so like Mason City has a ton of private built hangars, and that's how they got them, was they were 50 years. Just like if you think about $1 million divided by 50 years, or by 12 months, that's $1,600 or $1,700 a month. 9,000 square foot is what they're building, and that works out to 18.5 cents a square foot. And basically my highest lease rate in the airport is in hangar 72 for 22 cents a square foot. So, and the fact that it would take them 50 years to even beat it, you know, I mean, like they're paying all that today, you know, I mean, upfront. That's why I can't build, I looked at it all sorts, I mean, I got more motivation than basically anybody to build one. So because we have other ancillary businesses that benefit from it, you know, so in my opinion. It'd be really hard to do much less than 50 with today's building costs to do it.
And they can they sell that building, sell the lease, this contract, or if they decide to sell it, do we get a chance to redo that whole thing? And set it as a rental rate, but if they have this lease for 50 years, they can, in 20 years, they can
have
sell
the
it.
option to sell it, yes.
Yeah, I think that's, cause that, in my mind, that's also where a longer lease becomes valuable, because I could use it for maybe 20 years, then sell it to somebody else who can use it for 20 years.
Yeah, the biggest thing though is true, as I just sold a hangar in Quincy, Illinois, it's the same size. Is the value, so that building would cost $1 million+ to build today, but it sold for 400,000 because at the end of the land lease, it goes away. So it's like
Yeah.
real depreciation, because unless you can get an extension granted.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times when the airport, just for background, like other airports, when they come up on lease term, they'll oftentimes go to the person who's in it will come up and say, hey, I'm gonna redo this door and this thing, and you know, here's, I'm gonna dump 150,000 into it in exchange for extending lease, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
So just things, just background things,
Yeah.
you know,
But
That's good to know.
but it definitely is true depreciation. So yeah, you can resell it, but it's worth exactly that much less, whatever the lease rate is at the time,
Yeah.
value.
Well, so do you also, so they own it, so they can depreciate it if they're a commercial business and using it as commercial, they could depreciate it themselves for their business.
I don't know, it's
weird.
You can, yeah, you can, about their tax expert, you can some, but
Okay.
you,
Not
it's
if you
difficult
own
with
the-
property. It's
yeah.
not the same as an airplane.
It sounds like it's
Which
worth
depreciate
making,
all by themselves.
yeah. It sounds like it's worth making the 50-year to be able to get the hangar, to be able to get this flow.
I mean, I
I
trust
think
Matt,
that's
I
reasonable.
trust Matt's
Yeah, his numbers.
insider, you know, knowledge of the industry,
Yeah.
And like, if 50's what it is to even.
I think
I-
it's reasonable.
I think it's a valid point, is what I'm saying, I'm not trying to discount your point, I think that's just maybe where we're at.
Yeah,
Input.
and that's fine, I think I was just,
It is slightly weird that we talk about this, that will likely expire
Yeah.
when I'm dead, but.
But,
Mortality aside,
I mean, you can
but as
show
you
it,
mentioned, it's gonna be a precedent.
yeah, well, yeah,
maybe more people build hangars,
well, that could be it.
but we're gonna take all the concrete, we're gonna have to build more concrete, Mike.
Well, we'll figure it out. Hey, if people want, if people want to build hangars, I will figure stuff out. That's the end. We need hangers, we need trees, we
Yeah,
need
the whole south side
Yeah, from-
access there. Build a lot of hangers over there.
Be able to do our, to be able to do our hearing next time.
Yeah, I'm fine with setting a public hearing. Do we need a?
Yes.
It's a resolution.
It's a resolution. I move that we consider a resolution setting a public hearing for the 319 Hager project.
I'll second.
We'll call.
Aye.
Judy,
Aye.
Booker,
Aye.
Ryan, aye. Chris.
Just for context, I don't know what airport is, but I think we have 2 airports that we work at, they're considering even longer than 50 years on a couple private figures, because at the same point, the economics are just really hard to pencil out right now.
We'll be a 100-year lease.
Yeah, get in early, they're doing, I do own airport ground some places, because they got into before the city was like, you can only run ground leases, and so now they like run the place. Or they can do whatever they want, sell it. I'll come, yeah, I'm gonna come to your door next week.
We'll get your ground lease. Give you the template, here you go. Events, just something coming up, we do have the EAA Tri-Motor B25 coming up at the beginning of April, so that'll be before the next meeting. Come out, enjoy, take a ride, take pictures. And then the Young Eagles date is set for August 16th. That was the only other event that we knew we were planning that was up in the air last month, so. Other than that, everything else, Summer of the Arts movies have been announced, and I did not print out the schedule. I know the Princess Bride and Moana 2 and so 2 I can remember what the movies are. Yeah. Good.
I don't have, much of anything other than we're really hopeful that we're done with snow, so that's good. The, taxi lights seem to be working now, which is good. That was something that took a little while, but it seems to be real good. The, equipment will be converting back over to grass and things like that. And we've got several, this summer, we've got to figure out some door seals and things like that for T hangers. That's me. Same thing. I really don't have much else. I'm glad that you guys are considering doing the land lease thing. I think that'll work out good. Like I said, I wish ours was 50 years, but I'm sure I'll find something else I need to invest in to help things go at some point in time. And one of those, like I mentioned with Mike, I'm working on Hangar Mike, which the airport owns, that I want to lease now. It needs a new door, so that might be something that we do. As a way to like prepay the lease or do something different with that, but we'll talk about that a different time when it's not an hour in the meeting. But anyway, other than that, I don't have anything else. If you have any questions for me. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah.
Staff evaluation. I don't know what we want to do for this, aside from saying we gave your evaluation yesterday and used the document that was shared with the community, so.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Again, you know, like I say every year, if I'm doing something wrong or if I'm not doing something up to standard, let me know, because if I don't know what's broke, I can't fix it. But otherwise, we appreciate the vote's confidence and keep on keeping on.
And thank you, Chris, for working on
Yes.
I was already.
it. It's like saying, thank you.
That's just next.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
The one thing I did talk to Chris about with the minutes, just to have it on record, is I am eligible for the step increase.
Okay.
Again,
Yes, once a year for 10 years. But I am asking for the commission to hold off on that for a year for budgetary purposes. Because
so.
I know what the budget is and, you know, it's kind of the, if we get this hangar built, you're welcome to get back paid.
Yeah, no, it's true.
But,
That's great.
no, I mean, I know what the budget is, so,
Let the solar kick in. And
Yeah.
Solar panels should pay for you.
Yes.
Anything else on the evaluation?
I don't think so. I've got the copy up here for that son.
Those are my reports. That report?
This, the conference coming up in April, also in April, in the 15th to the 17th, is the big youth conference over proposing. The agenda, I think I emailed out the agenda, if anybody's interested in going, let me know to get registration. Otherwise, I think I'm going, well, I have to go for a number of reasons, but also because I'm the IPA president. IPA did host their legislative reception. Unfortunately, I was ill for that day, did not make it, but I know it had a kind of a low turnout due to stuff going on in Des Moines and what they were working on, because they were working on the anti-trans bill. That we yeah, super fun stuff. But otherwise, we're watching the legislature now for the budget side of things, and I know that they're kind of done with policy and moving into numbers.
Next meeting is April 10th. I will be
I will be very here.
verifying that I will be there.
With more notes from your constituent.
Yeah, like I said, I'm kind of becoming a most bureaucratic.
Senator Mayor Story.
It's a whole twist.
Yeah.
But then they have to make so many signs, I might be the councilman, like, I don't know, make a lot of signs.
Yeah, there's that.
I'll help you with
That's,
this.
that's like reason 1 of 10.
But you're talking then.
I've seen those minutes. Yeah, I'll be there as well. So. I think we'll have-
Staff report, I didn't put it in on the agenda, but we do need to organize the annual report to city council.
Okay.
The what?
Or the annual report, the yearly report we do that goes up to city
Oh,
council.
okay.
Somebody goes up there and says hi.
Yeah.
Did you go last year?
I went with Judy.
Yeah, last year.
Judy did the talking, I just.
What is that?
To be determined, but
If I'm around.
Yeah.
Scary.
And then if
Just
not,
so,
he can go out with you and he can do the talking.
Yeah,
I could, yeah,
yeah, it's a rolling thing. I
yeah,
don't care.
they just smile at you.
They do.
Yeah, that.
well, it's during the public comment period, so they're not really supposed to talk.
I know, but
Makes it easy.
Yeah. You can talk it down, they're supposed to talk back.
And now.
all right, one want to move to adjourn?
I mean, we adjourn.
Like. Which one?
Warren.
All right, Warren seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.